the moment has come. We are profusely elated to invite the chief guest of the day, Honourable Dr. Justice P. Jyothimani, for the inaugural address.
Respected CEO Dr. Abdul Salam sir, respected Joint Director Mr. Abdul Samad, respected Principal of the College Dr. Anju N. Pillai, respected teaching staffs of this esteemed institution, and my dear student friends. We have heard a very touching speech of Dr. Abdul Salam. Sir, you are the backbone of this institution, how this area has developed. We feel very sorry that you have lost your daughter because of the nature's cruelty. But hundreds of daughters are here to console you. And you have taken the country as a place where you should work. The very nature of this Markaz city shows the sustainable development goal has been achieved fully to the most possible extent in this area. And you are responsible for that. And the entire world community must thank for you. Dear friends, we have gathered here today for a 2-day seminar on community-based sustainable development. Sustainable development, the word, has no meaning of its own. There are certain important words in the legal parlor which cannot be applicable to a particular circumstance alone, and that should be made applicable everywhere and anywhere. Like that, the term sustainable development applies to economical society, to social scientists, to lawyers, to environmentalists, to teachers, to students and everyone. When you talk about the sustainable development, the basic concept is equity. We call it as intergenerational equity. Whatever the benefits which you are enjoying today must be given to your future generation. That is the intergenerational equity in law. And that is how the United Nations felt that the development which we have as on today must be sustained for the future, because nature is showing its cruelty now and then. When you talk about the nature as to how it has retarded the human generation, part of it, the reason for the part of it is the human negligence. You talk so much about the warming, world warming, how the heat is generated to a large extent, and how the sea temperature is trying to go beyond 1.5 Celsius. See, when the sea temperature has crossed 1.1, we had tsunami some 5 or 10 years back. Like that, when once the heat of the surface, oceanic surface or any other surface increases, then the nature shows its cruelty. Either there is a flood, or there is no water, and it causes an embarrassment for sustainable development. Therefore, the world body felt that we must have a definite goal for sustainable development, at least for future, so that from today onwards, we will not cause more damage to the nature. We will see that the economic development is in accordance with the natural development or environmental development, to strike a balance between the environment and the industrial growth. So when it is one such goal, 17 goal is the environmental development or global warming, whatever it is. Now I will just tell you what are the definition given in the Butland report of 1987 about the development. What is development? No, development must be one which should meet the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. When you talk about development, the development which you think about should not be at the cost of the future generation. What we do today, generally throughout the world, we think about the present generation for the purpose of development, forgetting as to what will be the consequence of this development in future. You see the urbanization, how the forest coverage is being taken away. You take Brazil, Amazon is one of the biggest forests in the world. 1/3 of the forest cover of the world is in Amazon forest. But every now and then you find the Amazon forest is being destroyed. Justice Benjamin of that country, Supreme Court judge of that country, used to participate in our environment conferences, world conferences. We used to ask them, why you are not able to control these international thugs? International thugs and criminals are there in the Amazon, taking away the valuable trees every year. Every year more than 10,000 trees are being cut away and taken away to other foreign countries. Why do you allow? The judicial head of the country, Justice Benjamin, says, what can I do, brother? I pass so much of orders directing the government to prosecute these criminals, but government is unable to do that. Therefore, the legal truths are political untruths. That is how, you could have studied in the law. My teacher, when he started taking Evidence Act in the second year, he started with the word. He was a barrister Kuppusamy, in his own inimical style. You won't stand here, because if this is not there, I will just walk and teach. Because of this table, I am not able to walk. My teacher used to do that. Professor Kuppusamy used to say that Barrister Kuppusamy used to walk throughout the dais. And he started with a word, under the Evidence Act, students, under the Evidence Act, please don't believe Indian Evidence Act. He will start with that word. Because whatever you study under the Indian Evidence Act, you are going to see totally opposite picture when you go to court of law. After completing your law, go to court of law, you apply Indian Evidence Act. Nobody will apply Indian Evidence Act. If you apply Indian Evidence Act, you will lose all your cases. Therefore, legal truths are political untruths. And that is how, under the sustainability concept, you find, we talk so much things. United Nations expresses its desire to see that at least in future, in the next generation, our people will live peacefully against the agony, facing the agony of nature. But then what is going on? And the rich nations are flooding on the poor nations. There are instances where the solid waste and plastics created by the rich nations are being sold for paltry amount to the small nations, to enable the small nations to dump them in the IC. US has no ICs, and they sell all their waste to small nations facing seas, and they are dumping on the ICs for a paltry consideration. What is the consequence? That country is sustained. The small country which is begging is sustained because the big country has given money. For what? for giving waste produced by that big country to dispose. The small country which gets small consideration, how will they dispose the waste? Simple thing is, put everything in the sea. That is what we are doing every day. We go on tour during summer vacation. We put all plastic and everything on the road. You just travel by your car. On the way you put everything, every waste on the road. That is what we are doing, is it not? And if we go to Singapore, can we do that? Can an Indian going to Singapore throw away his waste on the road? What will be the consequence? But a Singapore man comes to India, he freely throws away everything on the road. Who is responsible? Who is responsible for the unsustainability? We are not able to control. Our laws are enormous compared to the statutory enactments in our country, starting from the glorified Constitution of India, which your principal was telling, ending with the latest Environment Protection Act and so many regulations passed in the Environment Protection Acts. We have got thousands of laws and regulations and rules. But in spite of these thousands of laws, rules and regulations, we are not first in the category of countries maintaining sustainability in the world. The reason is that we do not have the mindset to act in accordance with the law. We have laws, but there are no people to respect laws. That is the problem now. That is why this sort of sustainable development goals are being introduced by the United Nations. 17 goals are introduced. And if you see the 17 goals, they are beautifully worded goals. But in my considered view, these beautifully worded goals are of no use unless you put it in action. Your principal was telling yesterday, and your vice principal was also telling, that our aspect of teaching in the law college here is not merely teaching or imparting instruction to the students, but to see that what they teach reaches the man, common man. That is how you go to tribal area, tell them what is their right. You go to an area where a person was affected, you tell him and give relief immediately. And that is the applicability. Merely studying law, you study Indian Penal Code. Indian Penal Code tell umpty number of offences. What are the constituents of various offences? Say murder 302. What are the constituents of offences? Your teacher will say common intention, common desire, and so many things. But then, how it is practically put in last week we had a conference about the investigation on the criminal cases. There is no purpose in going through the Indian Penal Code. How to investigate? Indian Penal Code says what is an offense. What is a murder under 300? That is not going to help a judge to decide whether he should be given death sentence or life imprisonment under section 302 of the Indian Penal Code. The police has to investigate. That investigation must be done in a proper manner. And investigation having been done must be filed in the form of a report to the jurisdictional judge. And jurisdictional judge to take the investigation and go for a trial. And then during the investigation, the judge has to find out whether a particular person has been responsible for committing the offense. An offense has been committed. Who committed the offense is a concept of sustainable development. If somebody was found to have committed the offense, under which intention he was committing the offense. And if an offense was committed, where is the instrument used for committing the offense? How the instrument was recovered, we call it a material object. How it is recovered from the place where he has kept it after committing the offense. After that comes the examination of scientific examination as to the blood stain and the fingerprint and all that, as to whether this instrument was used by this offender. And it is only after that the court has to come to a conclusion that this offender is a criminal. Till then, he is only an accused. That is why you study benefit of doubt should always go in favor of the accused. Therefore, the same principle applies for the sustainable development concept. Under the sustainable development, I will only speak something about the environment and the global warming. There are so many things. I will just say it starts with no poverty. No poverty is the first goal out of 17 goals, and zero hunger and good health, and so many things are stated. Now, one such thing is that we have got a climate action, life below water, and life on land. These are the three things which relates to environment. These are the goal number 13, 14, and 15. That is being discussed worldwide even as on today. Now, you are aware that this aspect of considering the protection of land, water, and air came into existence much before. When there was a world conference and Rio conference was there. In the Rio conference, you find the 149 countries who participated have decided to enact law in their jurisdiction to see and protect that air, water, and land are protected. And there was a direction given to the member countries. You know, under the international law is not a law. Am I right? International law is not a law. Am I right or not? Is it a law? Huh? It is only a convention. This law, if you say something is law, you must have a sanction. You say Indian Penal Code is a law. There is a sanction, because when a police fellow prosecutes somebody, when I accept it, I give death sentence to him. So there is a sanction. In the international law, one of the countries commit a wrong. Having been a party to the convention, one of the parties are states. They are the nations. In the international law, we call as state, not nation. One of the states commits mistake and disobeys the convention to which the country has agreed. Where is the sanction? Who will punish that state? They use a term economic sanction. Economic sanction can be granted against the country which disobeys the direction of the United Nations Charter. Who is worried about economic sanction? Because no country is depending upon the other nowadays. Every country is self-sustained. India is not depending on any other country. Bangladesh is not depending upon any other country. Sri Lanka is not depending upon any other country. Pakistan is not depending upon any other country. No country is depending upon others. Every country has got its own self-sustained system. But then the larger interest of the world, when one of the states they cause damage to the environment, where is the sanction? When economic sanction is made, no country is bothered about it. Yes, I am very happy. If you don't give money, I am happy. India is not depending upon the money to be given by any other country. Then how do you call it as international law? As a law. Why there should be United Nations for that? Why there should be an International Court of Justice for that? International Court of Justice can give punishment only in individual cases. In individual cases, there is a mass murder of women, children in the World War. Hitler's friends, because he died, and his friends were prosecuted and death sentence was imposed. International Court of Justice gave a judgment. There was a Nuremberg trial. In that also a judgment was given. But in individual cases, a person commits offense against humanity, a sanction is possible. But when a nation itself commits an act which is against nature, which is against sustainable development, there is no sanction given against them. Therefore, United Nations begs before all the countries, member countries, please follow whatever you have agreed. That is all they can say. It is just as Justice Benjamin saying that, brother, I am giving so much of judgments, even ask the government to take criminal action against the thugs and international criminals. Government is unable to take action. Like that, United Nations is also unable to take action. It can only make a request. Therefore, ultimately, the United Nations makes it clear that you must form an opinion that the world should survive. If every state in the world forms an opinion that the world people should survive, then sustainable development comes true. Then the climate action and life below water and life on land. The very peculiar aspect of this is, India is one of the very important signatories to this conference. We have accepted it and we are very honest. Because in 1976 it was a decision, and 1986 we have passed the Environment Protection Act. We have taken 10 years for passing Environment Protection Act. But even before that, there were Water Act, there were Air Act. But those acts have not chosen to define what is environment. What is environment was defined for the first time only in the year 1986 when the Environment Protection Act came into existence. Water Act was already there in 1976 or 1971, whatever it is. Air Act was there just before the Environment Protection Act came into existence. In those statutory provisions, parliamentary acts they were. And those acts have not defined what is environment. But the Environment Protection Act for the first time defines environment includes air, water, land, any other animals, microorganisms in their relationship with each other. First time, what is environment is defined in India in 1986. Now, that is being given the goal, one of the 13th, 14th and 15th goal in 2023 by the United Nations. The United Nations speaks about the protection of environment. No, environment protection under our act, under the Indian law, states in terms of the economic development of the industrial development of the country. No, the question is whether the environmentalists are against industrial development or not is a question. Can I say that as an environmentalist, all you people should go to your rudimental, uncivilized position again? Or can I say that you must have the latest technological development for your development? If I say that latest technology is to be used for the world development, then I have to set aside the environment. I have to go into the industrial development. If I say that the environment is a primary one, then I have to forget about the industrial development. Then the starvation will be the resultant feature. That is how it is said that you must strike a balance between the industrial development and the environmental protection. So environmentalists are not against industrial development or the technological growth, but you must develop a balance between these two. In the name of industry, you should not spoil environment. Calling about the environment, you should not prevent industrial growth. They must go together. One must go in accordance with the other. And that is how, under the Environment Protection Act, Government of India is empowered to make various regulations. There are various regulations made. You have got the plastic management rule, solid waste management rule, battery management rule, and e-management rule. So many rules are there. There are 18 rules are there as such. These rules framed by the Government of India, they explain as to how to regulate, how to manage the waste material. The latest one is about the hazardous waste management rule and the e-waste management rule. Because e-waste management rule is going to be a most important thing, because whatever technological growth you are having, whatever instruments which you are having are going to be discarded in course of time. When these instruments are going to be discarded, where are you going to put them? Are you going to put them in the IC? Thousands of your computers, they are going to be discarded in course of time. A new version is to come. What will you do with this? The law says, e-waste management says that the manufacturer's responsibility comes in. Whenever you discard the existing industrial instruments, that must go to the manufacturer. Manufacturer must get back for the purpose of treating it in a proper manner, because you cannot treat yourself the electronic instruments. It has to be done by the manufacturers. Like that, the plastic waste management, because it only uses the term regulation. It doesn't prohibit. Some of the states are prohibiting plastic. There are states like Gujarat where plastic is permitted to be manufactured. When the plastic is manufactured in one of the states in the country, how can you prevent sale of that plastic in another part of the state in the country? That will be affecting your fundamental right to trade. Either it may be affecting Article 14, 16, whatever it is, right to carry on trade freely throughout the country. When a manufacture is not prohibited in one part of the India, one part of the country, then you cannot prevent the sale of that in another part of the country. That is why government wanted to have a regulation and they wanted to have the recycling of these materials. The plastics, particularly the one-time used plastics, when they are thrown away in the water bodies, the consequences are many. They say that the plastic takes 100 years for degeneration. Even after it degenerates, it gives toxin. The toxin enters into water. That water, the animals are drinking. The sea animals are drinking. These sea animals you are eating. And ultimately, we are getting diseases. One of the reasons for cancers is this human negligence. You freely throw away your plastics in the ICs, and these animals, they take it because they don't have the sense to understand whether it is a food or not. Thinking that they are food, they consume, and they ultimately die, and you take that, and you get the diseases. And that is how the recycling must be done. Instead of throwing out, it must be recycled. When you say, when a law says that it must be recycled, there must be a recycling facility. We have got a biomedical waste management rule. Biomedical waste cannot be dealt with by the corporations. Municipalities cannot take away the biomedicals. Biomedical, there are entrepreneurs who are appointed under the Act, and they are alone entitled to take biomedical waste. You must have seen during Corona period, there was a Corona biomedical waste. Separate one was created by the Central Pollution Control Board. It is not merely yellow bag and red bag and blue bag, and there must be another bag for the purpose of Corona patients and their dressing materials and their bed materials, mattresses, so much things, and how to treat them, how to destroy them, at what temperature. These are all available under the Act, under the rules. So these rules make, if they are executed in a proper manner, the environment becomes sustainable. Therefore, the sustainability is depending upon the nations, because we have got the 13, 14, 15 goals we have created in Dr. Ambedkar Law University. We gave it to the United Nations. United Nations has very gladly accepted, because nobody in the world is prepared to give so much of inputs. But then what is the purpose? Ultimately, the nations must follow and the procedure must be foolproof in their manner. Unless the procedure is followed in full form, it is not possible to have a sustainable development. Therefore, under the concept of sustainable development in our country, we have got the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. And they have used the term climate change recently, very 10 years ago. And the industries are divided into various parts. A and B type of industries are there under for the purpose of getting environment clearance. Any industries, whether you want to start a new industry or existing industry you want to increase its capacity, then you must get the prior environment clearance from the central government or from the State Environment Impact Assessment Authority, what you call SEA. Then these SEA are the central government authority. They have various scientists. They have got the environmentalists, they have got botanists, the zoologists, so many people are there as expert members. They decide the viability of the industry, and then if they accept that this industry is not going to be dangerous to the environment, and they recommend for the purpose of giving prior environment clearance. It is only after the prior environment clearance is given, the industrialist or entrepreneur must go with the development and starting of the business. Supreme Court says that there was one case, in Kamal Nath's case in Madhya Pradesh, we have given stay when a multi-speciality hospital was constructed in a water body. And it came when I was sitting in Delhi in the National Green Temple. We stayed with the project, saying that you have no business to stop the flowing water. You can't say that for a number of people you are going to give treatment, therefore the water will be stopped. We have stayed it. Then unfortunately what happened was that we have appointed a commission, and I myself went to the place because later I had to work for 4 months in Bhopal in the NGT. Then we went there and found it was a defunct water body, but what happened was during flood season it becomes completely flooded. And the unfortunate thing is that was the only good hospital in Bhopal, and we had no mind to close it. What is sustainable development? We talk so much of sustainable development. We have given judgment saying that running water should not be obstructed. If you obstruct it, it is against sustainable development by putting up a hospital. But then when you see there, thousands of people are getting treatment every day. And that is also a sustainable, good health is a sustainable development. And therefore, sustainable development is a very vague concept. It depends upon the facts and circumstances of the case. And a criminal lawyer or a civil lawyer, I would request all your friends and our teachers also to tell your students to become lawyers. Please don't become servants working in any multi companies. Because getting salary is not a material thing. You are studying law, studying a professional law students for the purpose of becoming professionals and not to become the servants of a company. Because a professional is called, his knowledge is called high and sophisticated knowledge. The Supreme Court has interpreted professional knowledge as a knowledge of high and sophisticated knowledge. That is how a doctor or a lawyer is a professional because he is a person of high and sophisticated knowledge. He may not be a man of deep knowledge. A doctor may not know the entire anatomy subject, but he knows how to operate a person in what way to give a relief. A lawyer may not know the entire law in full sense, but he knows what is the legal consultation which has to be given to the client to get rid of his problems. You are solving the problem. That is how you become professional. Therefore, when you study law course, you become a professional. To be a professional is a very happy thing. So, in my case, I was a judge of the High Court for 7 years. But then the NGT 5 years and so many things. But of all these things, my work as a lawyer for 29 years is a golden period. Because there the satisfaction was utmost. Because a client comes to you with so much of grievances. And when he explains the grievances, with your sophisticated knowledge, you tell the result. You tell what should be done, what should not be done. And therefore, the contract is called utmost good faith. What is that? Contract utmost good faith? You heard about Ubrima Fadi? The relationship is Ubrima Fadi. It is a contract of utmost good faith. A patient comes to a doctor. A client comes to a lawyer. Your advice is of utmost good faith. And your advice is based on not only your intelligence, but your professional skill. You must see that the problem is solved. That is important. And that is how we find, that is the concept of sustainable development. When you say that something, because everything is in white and black and white in paper, but then how to implement is a problem. When it comes to implementation, you find under the Indian law, you find the CIA or the central government study about the impact of such industry. There is an impact assessment being done. Say for example, a thermal power project. Government wanted to have a thermal power project. In West Bengal, there was a big thermal power project. It came before us. Then that was questioned by an environmentalist before us. Then there was a issue of sustainable development. They argued the case that the water flow is being diverted. When thermal power, if you want to take, the flow by hydrologists must be in a particular velocity. But the real flow was very, very huge. And with that flow, electricity cannot be prepared. So government wanted to have a thermal power project by which government wanted to divert the water so as to reduce the flow, thereby getting electricity. Then the question was, the objection was that by diverting the water from one area there is a starvation and there is a flood in the other side. The area where the water was regularly flowing is going to starve, and where the water is going to be diverted is going to be flooded. By that diversion, the fauna and flora are going to be affected. The habitat of the animals, the water living animals or the plants are going to be affected. If they are going to be affected, the natural selection theory is going to be dwindled and Darwin's theory comes in again. And that is how they said it is not sustainable development. And what is the cost of electricity which is going to be acquired by virtue of this flowing of water, diversion of the water, is going to be much more than the very diversion itself. Therefore, even it is not economic sustainability, it is not environmental sustainability, then the court had to study the balance between that. and find out from the hydrologist. Our own hydrologist was sitting as one of our members with us in the NGT. We went along with him to find out what is to be done, because government has given 16,000 crores for this project. That is also the money of the public, people. And how to spend that amount, having spent the amount, what should be the benefit given. And that is how a via media order has been passed for the purpose of finding out, to see that the minimizing of damages is done to the environment as well as the economic development as such. And that is how the authorities, either central government or state government, while granting permission for the purpose of industrial establishment or for the purpose of increasing the structure of the establishment, they study about that, then give the permission or not to give permission. The prior environment clearance is given like that. And lastly, I would like to say a few words. And there is there are 3 R. For environmental protection, for sustainable development, we propagate 3 R. What are the 3 R's? Refusal, reuse, recycle. Refusal, reuse, recycle. Refuse the hazardous materials. If it is not refusable and it has to be used, then try to recycle if it becomes waste. And that is how we find the refusal and recycle, these 3 R's are going to be the mantra of the environmental development as such. And I would request that as far as the sustainable development is concerned, now please go through the 17 goals which are propagated by the United Nations, and try to give in these tomorrow's conference. Many people are going to give their lectures. Then explain, tell what are your difficulties, what are your problems. You tell them, and how to make people to aware. People must be made aware of their rights, their duties. And tell them, say for example, solid waste management, one of my favorite subjects. Where it says, solid waste management says, when a solid waste is created in the house, it is not going to be reduced. So long as population increases, the waste is going to increase. Then how to manage is very important. The rule says, when a solid waste in the household product it raises, there is a dry waste, there is a wet waste. You have to segregate. There must be a source segregation. Wet waste must be put in a separate bin, and dry waste must be put in a separate bin. So that in the wet waste, if you put it in a separate bin and given to the corporation official, it will straight away go for biomining process. If the wet waste becomes biomining, then you get a good manure. And that manure again goes to the land. And that is sustainable development. If it is a dry waste has to be put in a separate bin, and that has to be given to the corporation. Corporation will go for recycling if it is possible. And in fact, there was a suggestion in Rajasthan. They have put a road on the plastic. On the plastic waste, there was a road, and the road is still sustainable as such. And that is how we find the sustainability must start from the house. That is how nowadays we are going to the small school children. There is no purpose in telling the old people follow this and that. Old people are not going to follow anything. Suppose I am a drunkard. I am 74, as our CEO said. If I am a drunkard, I used to take liquor. What is the purpose of you were telling don't take liquor? Mahatma Gandhi says liquor don't take and all that. I am not going to stop. Even if I am going to stop, society is not going to be benefited, because I am going to die in another 1 year or 2 years. But that has to go to the younger generation. Younger generation must realize what should be done and what should not be done for the sustainable development of the country, for them and for everybody in the community as such. And that is how these sort of seminars are arranged. These sort of seminars are arranged not for you to hear whatever I say, but for you to tell whatever your problem in implementing. That is very important. In the classrooms, you may hear 2 hours, 3 hours we take classes, and you may hear and the write examination, get first class, gold medal. All these things are of no use. But then you must tell what are your problems in implementing the law. That is how my humble request is, tomorrow when you are going to have a lecture from eminent persons, you have interaction with them. You get your things clarified, your doubts clarified then and there. Or you tell something which comes in your mind. That may be going to solve a very, very big problem in future, we do not know. That is how the interaction is going to help. These are the purposes of these sort of seminars arranged. I once again congratulate the management for having arranged this seminar, and I congratulate every one of you for having chosen this institution. Because I have been there from last evening till this evening I am living. But this institution is one of the fantastic place which you have chosen. And as I told you again, the sustainable development has started already with this campus. And that must sustain throughout the country as such. And that you must learn from your teachers and whoever is going to give lecture. Even for whatever I say, you can ask some questions also. I will be very happy. If only you don't ask questions, I will be like your teacher only. You are all teachers because you are very happy because nobody will ask question. In the law college, we have never asked question to our teachers. Teachers are very happy because they get salary and all right, go, part of the game. But if you ask question, country is going to develop. If you don't ask questions, you are only going to develop, your teachers are going to be safe. But don't do that. But ask questions not only in the classrooms, but also in these sort of seminars. And these teachers are ready and willing to answer whatever they know about that. So that if you ask questions, they will study more and more and develop their skill more and more. That will be happier for all the children to come up in future. With these few words, I congratulate every one of you again. And thank you very much for giving this opportunity to meet all of you. Thank you.